Everyone. Good to see you all. Tonight we will continue our study of the Bhakti Shastri degree, and we're on the third book. We've covered the Nectar of Instruction, the Upanishad, and tonight we'll continue with the Nectar of Devotion. So tonight we're up to chapter 4 of the Nectar of Devotion, and chapter 4 is called Devotional Service Surpasses All Liberation, because in the previous chapters, at the end of the last chapter, chapter 3, it was discussed that Bhakti and Mukti, does anyone remember what they mean? Bhakti and Mukti. Bhakti means sense gratification. Mukti means liberation. So these are both material desires, karma and jnana, which obscure bhakti. The Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita itself are divided into 3 subject matters. There is jnana, karma, and bhakti. So jnana refers to speculative knowledge. Karma refers to sense gratification. And bhakti refers to devotional service to Krishna, to God. So these two, jnana and karma, they obscure bhakti. They cover devotional service. When one gets caught up in philosophies which are not supportive of devotional service, or when one gets too caught up in sense gratification, in trying to enjoy one's senses separately from Krishna, these things obscure our devotional service, our service to God, to Krishna. So, what we're hearing about in this chapter, because at the end of it was said that we have to be aware of these 2 distractions to devotional service. So now this chapter, Rupa Goswami, basically the whole chapter is just quotations which support the fact that we should not become distracted by jnana or the desire for liberation. And as we know, we've discussed previously, and also it'll be mentioned again in this chapter, there are 5 types of liberation. One is impersonal, the other 4 are personal. So we can accept the 4 personal types of liberation because they don't obscure our relationship with Krishna, with God. But Suyuja Mukti, which means to merge into the effulgence of God in personal liberation, that is to be avoided and is not accepted by devotees, by Vaishnavas. So this chapter is all about liberation and how we do not accept liberation, because it's a great distraction. Probably, I mean, this book was written 450 years ago in India, and probably at that time it would be a very serious distraction because many people were into this kind of philosophy. So therefore, because they're into this philosophy of merging into God as opposed to serving God, then that's why there's so much emphasis on this point. Yeah, smarta Brahmins, or just, Mayavadis, like that. Even in this day and age, it's still a very dangerous philosophy, because impersonal philosophy or Mayavad philosophy emphasizes that we should become God as opposed to serve God. So therefore, it's said to be a poisonous philosophy, a dangerous philosophy. So that's why the whole chapter, there's just quotation after quotation, where Rupa Goswami really drives this point home. And especially, it would have been very relevant back then. And it's very relevant now as well, because a lot of people are distracted by this. You know, we meet people in the New Age movement, or whatever they call the movement now, and they say, you know, with love and light. Sometimes people write to me and they say, with love and light. You know, it's like this thing that we're all one. So this philosophy is still very prevalent. So that's why Rupa Goswami spends a whole chapter quoting mainly from the Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is the main authority in devotional circles. It was the Shastra, or the scripture, which was favored primarily by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. He liked to hear from Bhagavatam more than any other Shastra, any other scripture. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said that he, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he would hear pastime of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj hundreds of times from Gadadhar Pandit in the Kota Gopinath temple in Jagannath Puri. So, and we've mentioned previously, and we've also seen, particularly in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries, particularly the 11th canto. Tonight, many of the cantos are quoted, but particularly the 11th canto, the Uddhava Gita, this is the most quoted part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If they want to, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and the other acharyas, if they want to lend authority to their statements, then they'll quote especially from the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is the whole thing. Tonight, you'll see it's many of the cantos, but the 11th canto in particular, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he really quotes that heavily when he's making points, because it's Krishna, the whole synopsis about philosophy in the Uddhava Gita, then Krishna, so many powerful statements there. So it's quite often used as an authority. So we'll begin the chapter. In the beginning of the next chapter, Prabhupada describes the theme of this chapter. So we'll jump ahead to page 47, where Prabhupada describes the theme of this chapter when he begins chapter 5. So we'll do chapter 5 next week. Tonight we'll just concentrate on chapter 4. And then the following week, I'm a little excited because that's chapter 6. And chapter 6 is where Rupa Goswami gives the 64 ways to serve God. The 64 items of bhakti, which will be discussed, which is, I find it very enthusing, very relishable, to study. So we'll be studying that. Okay, so Prabhupada quotes on page 47. All previous instructions imparted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his broad statements can be summarized thus: as long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. So that's like a sutra. The word sutra means a terse or very condensed philosophical truth. When you bring philosophy should be spoken concisely. The truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. That's a statement from Chaitanya Charitamrita. When you speak things concisely, get to the point. We just spent time with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami in Vrindavan, and he did a course many years ago called Clear Thinking, Strong Speaking. And he actually taught people in that course, and also in his editing style, because he edits Prabhupada's books, edited and edits Prabhupada's books. He says, don't use excessive words, because people like to waffle. Just let's go on and on and on. So you just get to the point. What's the actual philosophical point? So Prabhupada writes like that. You see in this point, Prabhupada, very terse, concise philosophical truth, like a sutra. Prabhupada says that as long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter the realm of pure devotional service. So karma and jnana, bhakti and mukti, they distract one from practicing devotional service. So that's why Rupa Goswami is emphasizing this. And this whole chapter is dedicated to overcoming one's attachment to jnana, or the desire for mukti, or merging into the effulgence of God. Personal Suyuja Mukti. Okay, so now we'll go to the Nectar of Devotion and we'll read through. And Prabhupada gives many, well, actually, it's Rupa Goswami giving the quotes. Prabhupada's summarizing. But many quotes just to drive this point home. So, first paragraph, Prabhupada says, how much a devotee is seriously attached to the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood from the statement of Maharaj Prithu Adiraj, which is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 20th chapter, verse 24. So first of all, he goes to canto 4. My dear Lord, if after taking liberation, I have no chance of hearing the glories of your Lordship, glories chanted by pure devotees from the core of their hearts in praise of your lotus feet, and if I have no chance for this honey of transcendental bliss, then I shall never ask for liberation or this so-called spiritual emancipation. I shall simply always pray unto your Lordship that you may give me millions of tongues and millions of ears so that I can constantly chant and hear your transcendental glories. These are very powerful verses to be relished by the Vaishnavas. Only devotees can relish this. One has to become a Rasika Bhakta. I was reading actually last night in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we were discussing the Bhagavatam begins by saying the Bhagavatam is meant for the Rasika Bhaktas. Rasika Bhakta means those who have taste for hearing about Krishna. You have to develop a taste. Vasudev Kata Ruchi. You have to develop a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. Otherwise, you won't sustain your Krishna consciousness. We see so many people leave or become unenthusiastic or slack in their devotional practices. Why is that? Because there's no taste. When you have a taste, you always maintain enthusiasm. Your enthusiasm should be growing year by year, not dwindling. And if it's not, it means you're not developing taste for hearing and chanting. So Lord Chaitanya was saying last night, he was discussing this point, that you have to become a Rasika Bhakta. Rasika means tasting the rasa, the juice which is there. There's so much juice in that one verse. So what are the points which are made there? Prithu Maharaj, who is actually an incarnation of Krishna, Shakti Vaishnavata, he's saying, I do not want to merge into your effulgence and lose my opportunity to serve you if it means I don't have a chance to hear and chant about you. Because when you merge into the Brahmajyoti, there's no opportunity. You can't hear and chant about God. If we can't hear about God, can't chant about him, then what's the point of the existence? So this theme will be reiterated again and again by different devotees throughout this chapter. So he says that it is if I have no chance for the honey of transcendental bliss, the sweetness, like honey, amrita. Topics about Krishna are sweet to the ear and to the heart. They attract one to Krishna. So then by hearing and chanting about Krishna, you become attracted to Krishna. There's the sweetness within him. And the chapter actually finishes with a quote that of all the topics about Krishna, the topics of Vrindavan are the topmost. To hear about the pastimes in Sri Vrindavan, Krishna and the Brijbasis. So, as Prithu Maharaj says here, at the end of the verse, I wish I had millions of tongues and millions of ears. Who else prayed like this? Yeah, great bit. Rupa Goswami is famous. There's a verse by Rupa Goswami who's compiling all of this. He says, I wish I had millions of tongues and millions of ears, because one tongue and two ears are not enough to relish all the sweetness in the two syllables, Krishna. Krishna, just by chanting those two syllables, Krishna. There's not enough sweetness, not enough. There's too much sweetness to just for one tongue and two ears to taste it all. You need more. You need millions of tongues, millions of ears. Then you can fully relish all the taste about Krishna, about God. So this is the opening verse, very powerful, very sweet verse. One thing that I like is that these acharyas like Rupa Goswami, they can just pick any verse out of the 18,000 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like I wouldn't even know where this verse is. It'd take me months to find these verses. Yeah, if I had to write, someone said to me, write a chapter all about this topic, it'd take a month, and you'd have to use your computer. And they just 450 years ago, sitting under a tree, were just pulling out these different verses. From 18. I mean, what sort of intelligence, divine intelligence, do these personalities have? They can do this. So, Prabhupada says in the second paragraph, the impersonalists desire to merge into the existence of the Supreme, but without keeping their individuality, they have no chance of hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. So, why don't we want to merge into the effulgence, the Brahmajyoti, the spiritual light emanating from Krishna, from God? Because you lose your individuality. And if you lose your individuality, then you cannot reciprocate rasa or prema. In other words, you can't reciprocate. If there's not two individuals, there's no reciprocation, right? If we all merge into each other, we're not reciprocating anymore. So therefore, we don't want to lose our individuality. That's why for a devotee, as it'll be mentioned in this chapter, it is detestable. Devotee just does not want to merge into Krishna because you lose your opportunity to serve him. You're not an individual anymore. And then you can't exchange with the original person, the supreme person. So that's why it is detestable for a devotee. Third paragraph. A similar statement is found in the Bhagavatam 5th canto, 14th chapter, verse 44. Shukadeva Goswami addresses Parikshit Maharaj and says, the great soul, King Bharata, was so much attached to the service of the lotus feet of Krishna that he very easily gave up his lordship over the earthly planet and affection for his children, society, friends, royal opulence, and beautiful wife. He was so very lucky that the goddess of fortune was pleased to offer him all kinds of material concessions, but he never accepted any of these material opulences. So this gives us another understanding. Actually, this is in relation more to karma or to bhakti, sense gratification, that this person spoken about in Canto 5, Bharat Maharaj, he actually made me a devotee because I read the pastime in the Coming Back about Jad Bharat Maharaj, and that was what actually affected me the most and influenced me to become a devotee. And it's Prabhupada's mercy that he was presenting this to us, but this particular story struck me the most. What is unique about him, about Bharat Maharaj, he was the king of the world. Not the king of Australia or Germany or America, the earth. Imagine being the emperor of the earth. That's who he was. He was the emperor. That they named the earth or India after him, Bharatvarsha. It's still he lived millions of years ago, and they still call it in higher places in the universe, Bharatvarsha, the place of Bharat. the great king. So Bharat Maharaj, he was the king of the earth, and he walked away from the whole thing, went to the forest and just focused on service to God, service to Krishna, right? Which is extraordinary, because that's not an easy thing to do. Right? Most people find that very difficult, to walk away from material attachments. But he's so powerful, he gave up all the, much more than what we would give up. We actually don't have much to give up. We just have to give up our blue couch and, and, our gardenias, just a few things. We don't have like a lot to give up, but Bharat Maharaj, he's giving up the kingdom of the earth. He had palaces and chariots and an elephant army. So much opulence. He's so incredibly opulent. When you go to India and you visit some of these old palaces and things, and you see the opulence that was there previously, and imagine like what Hastinapur must have been like. These great cities, capitals, they were so opulent. And he just walked away, went to the forest. Same thing happened with Pandu. Pandu was the father of Arjuna, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Nakul, and Sahadev. He conquered the earth, and then he said to the Brahmanas, the holy men, he said, "You take care of things." He said, "I'll go to the forest. He said, call me if there's problems. I'll come out and fix everything up. If you need something done." But he just left. Conquered everything, became the emperor, and then went to the forest. Because he didn't want to be distracted by material things. Everyone's distracted by material things, especially now. Everyone's so distracted by material opulence, because we're living in the most comfortable era of history. And people are distracted by all of these things. So he just left it all, just walked away. So this one's more about karma, giving up karma. But we have to give up both, karma and jnana, bhakti and mukti, sense gratification and philosophical speculation. Both must be given. Top of page 60, a similar verse. 40. Sorry. Maybe I should go and get a checkup. Yeah. Maybe I should. Yeah, maybe the glasses are not working in. Looks like 60, maybe it's 40. A similar verse is found in the 8th canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 20. Gajendra says there, so there's another famous part of the Bhagavatam, Gajendra Moksha. Gajendra was an elephant. In our teachings, the elephants talk. Hey, not the most amazing.
In our teachings, elephants talk. It's not the most.
Yeah, it's not the most outrageous thing you've heard in your life. No, it was here. Gajendra, yeah. My dear Lord, I have no experience of the transcendental bliss derived from your devotional service, so therefore I have asked from you some favor. But I know that persons who are pure devotees and have, by serving the lotus feet of great souls, become freed from all material desires, are always merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss, and as such, are always satisfied simply by glorifying your auspicious characteristics. For them, there is nothing else to aspire for or to pray for. It's another beautiful verse. Now, these are exquisite verses. For one who has a taste, these are exquisite. So, for one who has experienced the taste of hearing and chanting about Krishna, then all material desires just become insignificant. This is also spoken about in the Shad Goswami Ashtika, the prayers by Srinivasacharya to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. It says that because they're Rupa Goswamis, one of those 6 Goswamis. It says that they gave up everything to go to Vrindavan and to live as mendicants. It says the Sanskrit is tuchjavat. Tuchjavat means like Dinabandha Prabhu, when he explains this, he says like tuchja, like tuchja, like I give it up, I spit on it, I give it away. Tuchjavat. You know, no attachment to this world. And they were also wealthy. You know, Rupa and Sanat, they were wealthy. Raghunath was wealthy. You know, and Jiva was wealthy because he was their nephew. Like they were well-placed people. And they just gave it up as insignificant. Yeah, Tuchjavat. There's also the famous story of Sanatan Goswami. We just spent time with Sanatan Goswami in Vrindavan. We went to his samadhi on Gopanim and chanted for an hour with him. It's very powerful. That's one of the most powerful things I experienced while I was there in Vrindavan. And Sanatan Goswami, there's a famous story that he had a sparshamani. A sparshamani means a touchstone. You touch it to something. You hear about this in old teachings. A stone, they touch it to something and turns things into gold. I think the story of Midas, and you might have heard of these stories. Yeah. So it's there in cross cultures. It's in different cultures. It speaks about the same thing. So he had a sparshamani. He had this stone that you touch to something and turns it into gold. So he had it. And then someone heard he had it. So they came to him. Said, oh, you know, Swamiji, we hear that you have this sparshamani. He said, yes. He said, can I have it? Will you give it to me? He said, yeah. He said, where is it? He said, I think I left it over there in the garbage, like everywhere, just piles of leaves and refuse, just over there somewhere. He said, really? He goes over, digs around and finds it. He goes, is this it? Said, yeah. You can have it. So he goes off, he can't believe it. Son goes, so I was giving him this sparshamani. You know, just touch it to something, it turns into gold. So he's walking away, and then after some time, he thinks, why would he just give it to me? Why would he just give it to me? Like he must have something even more precious. If he's just giving something so valuable away. So he comes back and he says, Swamiji, why would you do that? And he said, well, I have something much more precious. He said, well, give that to me. He said, I will, but you have to put the sparshamani back where you found it. If you let go of that, then I'll give you the more valuable thing. So then he went, he put it back and then covered it back up, and then he came back and he said, now, please give it to me. He said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Take this Maha Mantra, the names of God. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Chintamani means thought conscious, wish fulfilling. This holy name of Krishna, this Maha Mantra, can fulfill all of your spiritual desires. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha means the holy name is Krishna. It is not different. So when you chant the holy name, it is non-different from Krishna. So it can give you much more than material things, just gold. It can, you chant the names of God, Hare Krishna, you actually unite with God himself. It's much more valuable. So he said, I'll give you this Maha Mantra, chant this. And he became his disciple. He continued to chant. And we never hear what happened to the sparshamani. Maybe
under Paul leave somewhere.
They could still be there in near his samadhi, over in the corner where all the broken cups are and everything. So you don't know, it could just still be there. So this is the point. The point is when you have when you're absorbed in devotional service to Krishna, everything else pales in comparison. Everything pales in comparison. That's one of the main realizations I got in our recent trip to Vrindavan is the potency and power of the holy name of Krishna. And I saw many sadhus, like Janananda Maharaj and Kanamba Maharaj, Kanamba Swami, some of his followers, so much taste and absorption in the holy name, in the Sankirtan practice, congregational chanting. And when you have that taste for that chanting, like we were there on the day of the inauguration of the Samadhi of His Holiness Kanamba Maharaj, and I was standing just behind his Samadhi. And then all the devotees, the sannyasis, they were there and they were inaugurating, beginning the worship, the first worship at the Samadhi, placing Maharaj's lotus feet, the imprints of his lotus feet into the Samadhi. And then, so the kirtan was going. And one of Maharaj's disciples was leading the kirtan. He's that Nitai, yeah, very powerful kirtan, very powerful kirtan. And, you know, they were 20 meters away or so. They were leading kirtan under the pandal, and then some of us were near the Samadhi. And then, you know, everyone was standing there, and Janananda Maharaj, I got a lot of realization about Maharaj. I mean, I've known him for a long time and always appreciated him, but I got a lot of realization about his personality. You know, everyone else was like there and they're offering, but he just started dancing. You know, listening to the kirtan, the chanting. He just started dancing. And he was getting more and more blissful. He's dancing quite strongly, like he's moving like this. Everyone else is kind of standing still and, you know, chanting, but, you know, Maharaj started dancing like he's moving. And then after some time, he could not contain his ecstasy. He just went to the kirtan. You know, went to the kirtan. And then I was watching him. I could see over there and I could see. So I was watching and he was over there and he got there and he said, come on, let's go, let's chant. And then he got everyone really going. And then they were all dancing and chanting. He was right in, he's 70 plus. He's right in the middle, like a young man, dancing and chanting. It was hot as well.
Johnny did that as well. It's really hot.
Yeah, that was a hot day. Yeah, we're right next to Govardhan Hill, like from here to the wall next to Govardhan Hill. And it was a hot day and we're all there. And Maharaj started the kirtan. Everyone was just dancing in the sun, like mad. You know, going on for maybe 45 minutes or something. We were just dancing in the dust of Govardhan Hill. So one who has this taste, and I saw it, you know, with my own eyes. I saw devotees who have this taste. When you have this taste, everything in the material world becomes insignificant. There's nothing attractive in this world for a devotee who has a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. So that's why we have to get the association of these kind of devotees. Because when you get their association, it lifts you up. And it shows you, oh, actually, there is something much higher, something much greater. I remember years ago, we were doing a kirtan. It was one of the festivals. Can't remember which festival it was, but and Koma Prabhu, who was also a great kirtan leader, he was leading very enthusiastic kirtan, and you know everyone was dancing and chanting and very absorbed. And then he leaned back to us while in the middle of the kirtan. He leaned back and he said, "Sex life pales compared to this." Right? That was his realization, because I think he just had another child or something. Compared to service to Krishna, even the greatest pleasures in this world, they pale in comparison. So these great, that's why we need the association of these great devotees, because they make us understand that the things in this world are insignificant compared to service to Krishna. So that's another one. That's what Gajendra is saying in the 8th canto. Okay, so far we've heard from Canto 8, Canto 5, Canto 4. Next is 9. This is like a tour de force. You know, it's like that's why we have to associate with It says Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. I was saying that in class yesterday. Daily, we have to associate with the Bhagavats. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam means every day, regularly. Bhagavata means the great souls. Sevaya means service. And Prabhupada says in the purport of that verse, one of the most famous verses in the Bhagavatam, he says there are two types of Bhagavats. What are the two types of Bhagavats? Yep. Yeah. So the book and the people who follow the book. So in the book, there are the people, the great souls from the past they've written about. That's who we're associating with right now. And then you have to find the people who actually live it. You have to find both. You know, the books, you have to read the books regularly, and you have to find the people who are following, who are alive. Associate with them while they're alive, because they're all getting older now. You know, not much time to go. And then the next generation will have to take over. There's very powerful people who are senior now. You know, it may not be so much longer that we have these personalities. In the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, 4th chapter, verse 67, the Lord of Vaikuntha replies to Duvasa Muni, "My pure devotees are always satisfied being engaged in devotional service, and therefore they do not aspire even after the 5 liberated stages, which are to be one with me, to achieve residence on my planet, to have my opulences, to possess bodily features similar to my personal association with me." So when they are not interested even in these liberated positions, you can know how little they care for material opulence or liberation. So the 5 liberations are mentioned there. Samipya, Shastri, Salokya, Sarupya, and Sayuja Mukti. So Sayuja is the one that we do not accept. That means merging into the effulgence of God. You see, the pictures of God, this is how we see God in our tradition. He's a bluish cowherd boy. So you see the effulgence, the halo around him. That's what we're talking about, merging into that, merging into the light which comes from him, as opposed to serving him, the personality. So in this effulgence, to merge into that is called Sayuja. The desire to merge, we don't accept that. Because if you merge into that, you can't serve Krishna anymore. You become one with his light, his energy. So we don't accept that. Devotees never accept that. But the pure devotees, the 4 that we will accept, which is we get a form like him, Sarupya, Salokya, go and live on the same planet as Krishna. Samipya and Shashti, you get his association, you get all his opulences, you get to experience everything all the facility that he has also. Even though we will accept those things, a pure devotee becomes so absorbed in service, he doesn't even mind, he's not even motivated by that. If I get it, okay, I get it. But if I don't get it, that's okay as well. Yeah. That's why Lord Chaitanya says in Shikshastika, Jammane Ishwari Bhagavata Bhakti Ahoituki Tvai. Ahoituki means unmotivated. And you don't want something. You serve someone, but you don't want something in return. That's pure devotional service. That's how you please God. Right? You serve him, but you don't ask for anything in return. You know, sometimes people go to church or the temple or the synagogue and, give me this day my daily bread. You don't ask God for bread. You know, he's going to give that to you anyway, so you don't have to ask for bread. And then, you know, they say, and then what about a Mercedes? And what about a trip to Europe? And what about this? And what about that? And, you know, I remember when I used to go to church many years ago, everyone would just, when it came time for prayer, everyone just asked for things. I want this, I want that. Oh, this person's sick. Can you make them better? This person help them pass their exams. They say all these things, but that's not why we go to church. It's not why we go to the temple. When we go, we say, Das os me, I'm your servant. What do you want? What can I do for you? That's pure devotional service. So that should be our mood. So a devotee, he doesn't even ask for spiritual benedictions. That's why Lord Chaitanya says, Jamane, Jamane, even if I take birth again a few more times, or many more times, that's okay. As long as I can keep serving. And we're very fortunate because we've all practiced devotional service for some time. So the minimum we're going to get is being born in ISKCON again. That's the minimum. That's good. That's a good deal. You know, and if we're really fortunate, we might even go somewhere very nice. Yeah, that might be very, very good. What's that? Yeah, even that's nice. Yeah, that's nice. That'd be good. That would be good. You know, to go to a new governor, that would be wonderful. You know, if that was our next birth. But you know, there might be something even beyond that, which would be extraordinary. But it's possible. It's possible. Prabhupada says it is possible. Okay. There is a similar prayer by the Nagapatnis. Now he's going to the 10th canto. Two from the 10th canto. So the Nagapatnis. So we walk past this on Gorpanim, Kaliya Ghat, where Krishna jumped off the tree to fight with Kaliya. And then we didn't go in this time, but sometimes you go in, there's the Nagapatnis. He's the wives of Kaliya. They've a little temple, you can pray to them. So this is the prayer of the Nagapatnis, the wives of Kaliya. Dear Lord, the dust of your lotus feet is very wonderful. Any person who is fortunate enough to achieve this dust does not care for heavenly planets, lordship over all the planetary systems, the mystic perfections of yoga, or even liberation from material existence. In other words, anyone who adores the dust of your lotus feet does not care a fig for all other perfectional stages. Okay. Yeah, this is Old English. So Prabhupada was educated in Scotch College and in Calcutta, and yeah, he do not give. It's like an Old English saying. We do not give a fig for this or that.
Something very significant.
Yeah. So Prabhupada, he writes like that. It's very nice, Old English. Devotees do not give a fig for all other perfectional stages. So if you look at the list here, there's very alluring offerings which are made by this material energy. The heavenly planets. There are planets which are far beyond this planet. Planets where people are much more beautiful and the weather is much better and standard of living is much higher and people don't get old. So you're strong for your whole life, thousands of years. It's called Swaga, heavenly planets. So, you know, much greater. So even that, the devotee is not even attracted to that. You know, even that we're not attracted to. That's how we should become. And we just want to serve Krishna. We don't even want to go to Swaga. And then lordship over the planetary systems. Like Dhruva Maharaj. He became not just the king of this planet, but the king of the universe. Right, that's powerful. It means you can go to any of the planet. You own all the planets. Imagine that. Right, you go to the planets here that are much better than this planet. And you can go to all of them. You can have a holiday. We say, oh, I want to go on a holiday. We'll go to Bali. You know, but they can say, oh, I want to go to that planet. And so there's some beautiful planet. You can go to that planet, or you can go to that planet, or where do you want to go? Yeah, he lives there. Yeah, with Varman and Dave. Yeah. Oh no, sorry. Varman is with Indra. Yeah, he's with Indra. Yeah, he's with Indra on his planet. But yeah, Dhruva's there. And Prahlad, where's Prahlad Maharaj? He might be with on Dhruva's planet.
Is that the one that doesn't get affected during the annihilation?
Yeah, it's also the North Star, which you see in the Northern Hemisphere. It's a fixed star, and the rest of the universe is going around it. They're called the pole star, which that's how they work out when they're sailing, because it never moves.
It doesn't get
Annihilated.
Yeah.
Yep. And mystic perfections of yoga. The reason we're not attracted by these things is because when we don't really have the ability to even get them. But there are mystical powers that you can develop, where you can. Prabhupada even said when he was young, there was a yogi who visited his father's house, and he said, "What do you want to eat?" And someone said, "Oh, pomegranates from Afghanistan." And then they went into the next room, and there was a branch on the table with pomegranates on it. So the yogi had reached over to Afghanistan and brought the pomegranates and left them in the next room. So, these powers exist. Yeah, he walked all the way there and then came back.
Walking on, Prabhupada said that there was a man who used to walk across the Ganga when he was younger.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's Prabhupada said, what's the use? You pay one price to the boatman and he takes you.
Mm.
It's just waste of time. So many years in the Himalayas
Mm.
for perfecting income, make a cheap show.
Mm.
Pay one price to the boatman and he'll take you.
Mm. Yeah, so all these, they're called cities, where you develop powers. So it's very alluring. Not so alluring to us because, take a lot for us to get these powers.
So, in the beginning.
Yeah, some of the powers. Yeah, so for someone who's a devotee, even the powers are not attractive. They just become absorbed in devotional service to Krishna. And then liberation, which is the greatest boon that you get out of this world. All the suffering, you leave it behind. Even that's not attractive to devotees. They become so absorbed in service to Krishna. So the next verse from Canto 10 is from the 87th chapter, verse 21, where in the Shrutis, the personified Vedas, pray to the Lord as follows. That's one of my favorite chapters from the Krishna book, the prayers of the personified Vedas. It's a very powerful chapter. So a lot of powerful philosophy in that chapter. Dear Lord, it is very difficult to understand spiritual knowledge. Your appearance here, just as you are, is to explain to us this most difficult subject of knowledge of the spirit. As such, your devotees who have left their domestic comforts to associate with liberated acharyas, teachers, are now fully merged in the devotional service of your lordship, and thus they do not care for any so-called liberation. So interesting, they make the point, and this is mentioned in Bhagavatam. How do we give up our attachments to this world? How do we give it up? Yeah, it specifically says in this verse also, to saintly persons. When you become attached to saintly persons, your material desires disappear. So you have to develop attachment to saintly persons. And Janananda Maharaj said in one of his talks while we were there, it might have been at Govardhan, I think, he was telling a story. And he said that one who becomes attached to the fulfilling the order of the spiritual master, all his material desires will disappear. So it means when we become attached to the saintly people and their instructions, then all your material desires will be overcome. So that is the secret of how to overcome your attachments in this world. Because we need to overcome our, that's what this whole chapter is about, giving up your attachments. So how do you do that? You have to become more attached to the saintly people and their instructions. And then you'll easily give up your attachments in this material world. So then if we go across to the bottom of page 41, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, have we had one from the 11th canto yet? Okay. So this is the Uddhava Gita, which is very, very powerful. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 20th chapter, verse 34, Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, the devotees who have completely taken shelter of my service are so steadfast in devotional service that they have no other desire. Even if they are offered the 4 kinds of spiritual opulences, they will refuse to accept them. So what to speak of their desiring anything else in this material world?"
Krishna himself saying this.
Yeah, Krishna himself is saying to Uddhava. So he's summarizing all the previous teachers in the Bhagavatam. That if you develop a desire to perform devotional service, you just give up all your other material attachments. Yeah, Rupa Goswami, there's a famous verse by Rupa Goswami. And he says, "My dear friend, if you are attached to anything in this world, do not go to the bank of the Jamuna near Keshigat. Because if you see Lord Krishna playing his flute there, Sri Banga Lalita, threefold bending flute player, he said all of your material attachments will disappear." So he says, if you are attached to this world, do not go to Vrindavan. It's a dangerous place. Because, he says Keshigat.
That's right, in Keshava.
Yeah, just around the corner. Where he plays the flute, yeah. So he says on the bank of the Jamuna, don't go there, because if you see him, you'll lose all your desires. You'll be finished. Everything will disappear. And then Burrajan Prabhu, he's got that picture. It's his favorite picture. It's on the front cover of that first book that he wrote about the unveiling his lotus feet. Yeah, that picture of Krishna, that picture, he always keeps that. You see in his office or his room. He always has that picture, and he says that's the picture he meditates on when he meditates on that verse. Don't go and see that person. And he said one time he was at his desk and he was writing one of his books or something. And he just had this feeling there was someone in the room with him. And then he turned around and he looked at the picture and he said the picture was looking at him. Yeah, he said it was like he was looking at him. It's like, it's like he's looking at us. Yeah. Just so we don't always see it like that because we don't have the vision. But when you become purified, then the pictures can come to life. So this chapter 4, we can't even read all the verses because Goswami just quotes verse after verse, verse after verse. Why? Because he's trying to drive home the point. So he just keeps giving us verses. It's like a, how would you say it? What's the word? Yeah, like a tsunami of verses. Like here, there's this reference. Here's this. That's what an Uttama Adhikari is. someone who has faith but can substantiate his faith by quoting the Shastra. Shivaram Swami is like this. Yeah, people doing this again and again, another verse and another verse. You know, I'm not like that. I can't quote verse after verse after verse to substantiate the point. But these advanced stories, the Buru Jumper and the others, Dave Marita Swami, they can do this. Just another verse, another, just to substantiate the point. So that's what Rupa Goswami is doing. So by the end of the chapter, you'll just think, okay, I surrender. There's nothing more to be said.
It's like Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, it's funny,
Again and again and again.
financially succinct.
Yeah, so page 45, the very bottom, so Prabhupada makes a final point. Rupa Goswami makes a final point, which is very beautiful. Out of many kinds of devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the one who is attracted to the original form of the Lord, Krishna in Vrindavan, is to be the foremost, first class devotee. Such a devotee is never attracted by the opulence of Vaikuntha or even of Dwaraka, the royal city where Krishna ruled. The conclusion of Sri Rupa Goswami is that the devotees who are attracted by the pastimes of the Lord of Gokul or Vrindavan are the topmost devotees. And then Prabhupada, there's a note at the bottom. Vrindavan is a transcendental place where Krishna enjoys his eternal pastimes as a boy and is considered the topmost sphere in all existence. When this Vrindavan is exhibited in the material world, the place is known as Gokul, and in the spiritual world, it is called Goloka or Goloka Vrindavan. So, Rupa Goswami and Prabhupada, they're making this final point that for someone who's attracted to Vrindavan and attracted to the bridge buses, even Dwarka and Vaikuntha, they're not attractive. Even other parts of the spiritual world are not attractive. That's how attached. Because when Krishna left Vrindavan, the bridge buses would not leave. They stayed. They said, no, you come here. They said, you come. Right? You can go outside of Vrindavan, that's your choice, but we will not. We will stay in Vrindavan. Right? You go, but we will stay. And you have to come back here. And Krishna actually did. Even though in the Bhagavatam it's not mentioned that he went back, but he did go back. The Acharya's comment, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he went back regularly, actually. And actually, for Radharani, it actually says he went back every day.
They go to Kurukshetra on the solar eclipse.
And they feel like they haven't a long, long time.
But is that the only time they left Vrindavan?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. It's multifaceted, all of this. You know, when we studied the 10th canto a number of years ago, it's multifaceted. The Krishna goes to Dwarka. The queens in Dwarka are actually expansions of the gopis. So in one sense, the gopis are there. In another sense, the gopis actually go and visit one time. They go to Dwarka one time, they visit. And you know Tilak? Tilak is called Gopi Chandan. So Tilak comes from outside of Dwarka, and it comes from a place where the gopis came outside of Dwarka and they cried. And their tears mixed with that earth. And that earth is the mud that we put on when we put Tilak on. That's Tilak, Gopi Chandan. That's why it's called Gopi Chandan, because the gopis cried at that place outside of Dwarka. And Krishna actually came out of Dwarka when he heard they were there. So it's multifaceted, all of this. Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan, but he appears to leave Vrindavan, but he comes back every day, but they feel like they don't see him. And then he comes as the bumblebee in the Brahmara Gita. And then it says that he actually returns and he dances the whole night of Lord Brahma with them in a rasa dance. And then they feel like pacified. So it's multifaceted, all so many different layers. So yeah.
But it seemed like everyone from Vrindavan went to Kurukshetra.
Yeah, they all went.
Is that because of the solar eclipse?
But even that, Krishna Chakravarti Thakur says the forms that went there were like expansions.
Okay, like Krishna.
Yeah. They're like expansions. So it's very intricate. But the main point is that for the bridge buses, and Rupa Goswami, because he is a bridge basi and Prabhupada is also, they're making the point that for the bridge buses, even Dwarka or other places where Krishna is not enough. They lose desire for everything except for Krishna and Vrindavan.
Because it's only in Vrindavan where he's carefree, full his fancy free, boy, size, pregnancies.
Yeah.
Good cheaties.
Yeah, when they see him in Kurukshetra, Radharani says to him, she says, we're not attracted. You're riding a chariot. There's elephants walking around. You got a crown on. So why don't you just come with us back to the Jamuna, bring your flute, right? And then we'll dance like we used to. What is all this? This is not, it's breaking the mood. Breaks the mood. The bridge buses cannot relate to it. And when they meet him actually in Kurukshetra, he goes off with the gopis to a quiet place, a private place. And when they get there, because he's Krishna, so they want to give him a seat. So the only thing they have is their veils, their, what do you call it? The upper, like a dupada. So they get that, or a chadar or something, they put that on the ground. They make a sitting place. And for Krishna, that's the most opulent sitting place, more opulent than his thrones and everything. And then he sits with them. And then he says, actually, they give him a really hard time. Radharani gives him a very hard time. So you said you would come back. You promised you would come back. Right? And she's crying and her cudgel's all running, mascara's running all over her face. Really? And then at the end, Krishna can't even say anything. And at the end, he said, well, you can leave. You're all sitting here with me and you're just telling me everything that I've done wrong. But you can leave.
Happens in the spiritual world too.
Yeah. They said, you can leave. And then they just look at him. They say, well, we can't leave. Because even if we're not with you, all we do is think about you. And when we're with you, we think about you. So it's like, there is no escape. And Krishna said, I cannot repay you for your love. That's like, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually says Kurukshetra is the highest of all the pastimes. Because, Radharani says to Krishna, that we cannot live without you. And Krishna says, well, you can leave, but they won't leave. And he said, I can't repay you. So it's like the highest contract is like sealed. That's where they express their total love for each other. So this is a very nice chapter. Rupa Goswami just giving, that's all he does in the whole chapter. He just gives verse after verse after verse, just to drive these points home. So next week we'll study chapter 5, and then 2 weeks we'll study chapter 6. Chapter 6, as I said, I relish it because it's 64 items of bhakti. So we'll study that soon. Thank you all for coming. Good to see you all. Srila Prabhupada. Jai. We'll see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Okay, she good.